We know just how good guys like David Taylor, Zane Rutherford, Kyle Dake, but is this a chance for some young Nittany Lion wrestlers to emerge onto the Olympic stage? Could Aaron Brooks, Greg Kirkfleet, Mitchell Messenbrink, Bo Bartlett surprise this weekend in State College?
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The 2024 Olympic trials are officially here, hosted at the Bryce Jordan Center. Who are the best potential Olympians to actually compete in Paris? Will there be any surprises? This is Locked On Nittany Lions. I'm your host, Zach Seyko. Thanks so much for making us your first listen and watch every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. And help me welcome the voice of Penn State wrestling, now the voice of the 2024 Olympic trials from the Bryce Jordan Center. That is Jeff Byers over on the other side. You can listen to that coverage at 98.7 FM in State College, Fox Sports Radio. Jeff will have the live call, the play-by-play call, the first two sessions on Friday, and then studio updates all of Saturday. Again, that is Fox Sports Radio, 98.7 FM in State College. Jeff, let's go right into it. It's great to see you. I know we're all really excited here because there are 15 Nittany Lion Wrestling Club members competing, and then there are also just wrestlers affiliated with the future of Penn State wrestling here. Who, of course, aside from the high schoolers, right? This is a brand new competition for them at the senior level. But it will be exciting to see what talent they hold and what potential they have. But what about the potential of these wrestlers that have been doing this for a long time, or ones that are starting to break onto the scene? Who are, aside from the obvious ones, the best potential Nittany Lion Club wrestlers that can actually compete in Paris and bring home a medal? David Taylor comes to mind, right? Thomas Gilman did it in 2020, but Kyle Dake, right? Kyle Snyder. Who are those ones that stand out in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think the ones you mentioned, obviously Zane Rutherford is a guy that I think a lot of people are certainly pulling for and can do some real damage in Paris. And listen, I think there is a chance, and I feel like we're back to talking about it the same way we were with Penn State and the NCAA tournament, in that. Like, would it be surprising to see a Nittany Lion Wrestling Club member at each of the weight classes? It wouldn't. Am I predicting it? And, no. But I think, the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club has at least a legitimate contender at each of the weight classes. And I think, certainly it will not be surprising if at least 4 and, maybe even more than that weight classes you have Nittany Lion Wrestling Club member that ends up representing the U.S. at the Olympic Games.
Yeah, those are, again, the competition is at the highest point, but ultimately, the team trial, the trials here, the Olympic trials are great. They're going to be exciting. Bryce Jordan Center is going to have fireworks, legal fireworks here over the course of Friday and Saturday, but it really only matters in the scheme of things if anybody actually brings home a medal.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I do think U.S. wrestling right now is probably as strong as it's ever been. The depth is certainly, I think, as strong, if not stronger, than it's ever been. But I think when you look internationally, you could probably say much the same thing about Russia, Iran. Japan has made a tremendous push, and I think has better depth now. A lot of these elite wrestling countries, Belarus, and I'm going to leave some out, but it is. Yep. And the issue is when you get to this stage, to me, the great disservice that still needs to be rectified is this 6 weight class compromise that everyone agreed to allow wrestling to remain in the Olympics. They have to get that rectified. It has to go back to 10 weight classes. Even at 10 weight classes, you're going to have guys that are capable of winning a medal, not just here in the U.S., but in other countries as well, that are going to be off of the roster. But when you're shrinking it down to 6, you're just leaving out too many, my opinion, way too many elite wrestlers. And again, not just here in the US, in all of these competitive wrestling countries. And you're forcing wrestlers into weight classes where they really don't belong. And I just think, I know there's a push for that from the wrestling community. I just think the IOC has to step up and do the right thing here and figure it out. I know they have the certain amount of medals that they like to hand out at the Olympic Games. Adjust it. Get rid of some of these sports that, in my opinion, aren't Olympic sports. Not saying they're not great athletes, not saying there's not great training that goes into it. They're just not Olympic sports. Wrestling needs to have 10 wrestlers in freestyle, in Greco-Roman, and in women's wrestling. And, let's get that rectified sooner rather than later.
Are there who are the names that are ready to emerge? Because again, we've mentioned the obvious ones just because they've been in the freestyle circuit for so long. Some of them have won Olympic medals and just have dominated the sport, at least for the past 5 to 10 years. But Aaron Brooks, could he potentially take something away from David Taylor, who has owned that weight class? Could Kyle Snyder, again, who's been the rep every, back to back years, whether it's Olympics or worlds or nationals, is there a young wrestler that you're looking at that is starting to emerge that people need to know about him, whether that's a Nittany Lion Wrestling Club member or just somebody else in this field?
Yeah, so I mean, I would start with Aaron Brooks, and listen, I think David Taylor is, pound for pound, maybe as great a wrestler as there is in the world right now on the planet. So, but I'm telling you, Aaron Brooks is elite. Like, he is just a different type of wrestler, and I do think he's now he'll have to get by. Well, he has to get by a very tough field, including Carter Starocci, obviously, just to get to Zahid Valencia, and then he's going to have to get by Valencia to get a shot at Taylor. My expectation is Aaron Brooks will do all of that and will give Taylor a run for his money. I just, never say never. And Aaron is on a tear right now, and I think is wrestling as well as he ever has. It is going to take something really special to beat David Taylor, either here or at the Olympic Games this summer. So, but I do think Aaron Brooks is coming on strong, and I do think he is the future of U.S. wrestling here at that weight. The guy that I guess I'm probably, and there's a few guys that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Obviously, I want to see how Starocci does there as well. I'm curious to see how Bo Bartlett does because, again, I think his game translates very well, I think, to freestyle.
Yes.
And I'm just, again, I'm not predicting him to win it, but I think he could be a bit of a surprise here in the noise he makes. And then the guy that I really think has a chance to have an incredible weekend and be the talk of the tournament is Greg Kirkfleet. And I just think his game is going to translate, again, also very well to freestyle. The question is, does he have enough experience against a guy with freestyle, against a guy like Mason Paris or Nick Wisdowski? And we'll find out. But I think he is going to be right there. I think he's a guy that could be one of the real surprises here on the weekend. But there's a ton of them. I mean, then you start going through and it's like, well, yeah, this guy's going to be pretty interesting. That guy's going to be pretty interesting. But those are the guys that I guess, to me, have a chance to at least substantially improve upon where they're seated here this weekend, if not make a real run at being on the Olympic team this summer.
Coming up next here on the show, looking at that a little further, Carter Starocci makes a surprising move. I mean, surprising to some, from 74 up to 86. What went behind that move, how it affects the tournament as a whole, specifically that bracket, and some other storylines to watch out for that's coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. We've all been there either as a player or as a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard isn't looking so good. You're feeling low. You're not sure if you or your team can pull out a win. But that's when you dig deep. You lift your head up and you say to yourself, time to get back in the game. Let's pull off some bank heists and take all of my friends' money, as much as I possibly can. That's right. The smash hit game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but now on your phone anytime with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. And there's so much to do. You can play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball, and you can charge other players rent for iconic properties. You can even work with your friends, not just against them, but with them to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put your game face on, and download Monopoly Go. That's Monopoly Go, now available on the App Store and Google Play. And today's episode is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to its peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. And with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. That is ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. So Carter Starocci makes the move from 74 kilograms to 86. What does that decision mean? What went into that? Remember, you can listen to this coverage live if you are in the area on 98.7 FM. That is Fox Sports Radio. Jeff Byers will have the call for sessions 1 and 2 on Friday. Live studio updates for sessions 3 and 4. That's Fox Sports 98.7. Let us know in the comments what you think about the Olympic trials. Who's going to win? Your predictions, any takes that you have on this. You know, and again, it's going to be a show. It is truly going to be the best entertainment that you can find. Carter Starocci moves up from 74 kilograms to 86, and everyone's thinking, he's running from Jordan Burroughs. What's going on here? I was certainly surprised by it, but Jeff, in your mind, and of course, you know these wrestlers better than everyone else from the Penn State perspective, why was this move calculated? What factored into Starocci's decision to move up a weight class when he's wrestled around this weight for the past 4, 5, 6 years of his wrestling career?
Yeah, I really think it's as simple as he was not going to make the weight there, Zach. He's, and especially with the knee issue, I'm not even sure without it 100% healthy. If you've ever seen Carter with his shirt off, like there is not much there to lose. And, he is a very disciplined, obviously very dedicated kid. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to, hey, can I go out and compete and effectively hold up over a couple of days? And I think he just ultimately decided, no, is the answer. I can't. And so, he'll move up, and I think obviously gives up a little size there, but he is such a competitor, and when he is locked in, very, very difficult to beat. So I'm curious to see how he does this weekend. That weight class is absolutely loaded, top to bottom. But it does tell you a little something about this tournament. When you have Carter Starocci as a 6 seed, and by the way, I think he's rightfully where he should be seated. I don't think it's any kind of grave injustice. But if Carter Starocci is your 6 seed at a tournament at a given weight class, you know that weight class is in pretty doggone good shape.
I can't help but think about this because we covered the NCAA tournaments, had dual meet by dual meet previews for a majority of the Penn State wrestling season. And Jeff, it leads me to believe with the line of questions. So this kind of deviates from the Olympic conversation itself. Does that possibly open up the door to, or at least the more likelihood that Carter would consider a return to the 184 spot in the starting lineup? I know there's Josh Barr, and I don't need to debate what Josh Barr is or the potential of Alex Facundo, but would he be more keen on coming back if it's at 184 as opposed to 174?
No, I don't think so. And I think he sees, well, first of all, I mean, I think he genuinely believes right now that he's moving on. But again, that could very well change. But it's a substantial. I don't know if people appreciate the move from one weight class to another, but dropping from 174 to try to compete at basically 163 pounds. That is, again, if you look at Carter, like there is not. I don't like, even when he said that's where he was going to go to, I'm like, well, how are you losing 10 pounds off of that frame? So no, I mean, 174, I think is a good weight for him. And, if there was a 174 at the, for the Olympics, I think he'd be very comfortable there. But, if the choice is I got to cut all the way down to 163 or move up to 186 or whatever it is, roughly, I think, certainly for his overall well-being right now, even though he's going to be giving up a little bit of weight, I think that move up is just gives his body a chance to go out and compete without getting worn down.
Starocci opens up with Pat Downey in the opening round. Pat Downey's kind of just had an up and down career as it is between MMA and freestyle, right? He hasn't been overly dominant since his collegiate wrestling days, a little bit of trash talking here and there. I think Starocci's able to win that one, but I wonder, again, as tough as he is, as strong as he is, that knee injury, we don't know how. So we know it's much more serious than it was in the beginning when we first thought about it. But now we know how serious it is, and I can't imagine how much it has recovered to a point again where you're facing the likes of Marsteller. Could you face a Zahid Valencia, Aaron Brooks? Like, those guys are so good that anything short of 100% is going to put you at a deficit already to begin with.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think I don't think Carter's looking at it this way. The way I'm looking at it is it's a little bit of house money here for Carter, both with the weight class and with the knee. And, in terms of his freestyle development, he's still in the very early stages here. So, again, I know he is going in with the idea that he is winning this thing. Make no mistake about that. And I understand that. But I think realistically, if I think just getting the experience here, whatever happens, is going to benefit him down the road. He's going to take it, learn from it. And, hopefully one of these years he actually gets to compete in this thing and be healthy and show what he truly can do. And again, maybe healthy and all of that in 4 years he can get down, or I think more likely bulk up and be a true, 86 kilo guy who can go out there and truly hold his own. I do think he obviously has his work cut out this weekend, in part because of his situation, but also in part because, again, it is, I think, as good a weight class as I can ever remember there being at the Olympic trials.
Let's wrap it up and make some predictions, because there are some head-to-head battles that need to be decided, one of which Jordan Burroughs and Kyle Dake. This time they switch, and Dake is waiting in a best of three, and Jordan Burroughs has to wrestle through. That's coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is also brought to you by Gametime. Get to download the Gametime app, because buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all kinds of events, including sports, music, comedy, theater, and so much more. Now, I've used the Gametime app. I've used the Gametime app to buy tickets to Penn State events. I've used the Gametime app to buy tickets to events for both sports and music events, concerts, when I'm outside of the area. And that's one of the features that I like. Gametime sorts the events for you and lists them for you, so you know exactly what is going on around you. And Gametime's always trying to save you money. You have last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for all those kinds of events. You have exclusive flash deals, in-app deals, where you can save even more money on select seats ahead of the game or the event. And probably the most convenient feature is the seat views. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you're not second guessing, you're not wondering. Especially if you've never been to the venue, you know exactly what your point of view is going to look like. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And remember, if you're not already, become an everydayer. Subscribe to Locked On Nittany Lions on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts for the latest conversations around your favorite Penn State sports teams. And that includes, this extends to the Olympic trials here, since there are so many wrestlers affiliated with Penn State that are going to be competing Friday and Saturday. Again, you can listen to Jeff on Friday, 10 a.m. and then 6 p.m. with sessions 1 and 2 live on 98.7 FM, Fox Sports Radio. In this final segment, just a couple of predictions, some key head-to-head battles. Jaden Cox, Kyle Snyder, right? Can Cox upset Snyder? Can, Dake and Burroughs have been going back and forth, with their bit of trash talking for years now. The most exciting battle out of all of them, potential, and I know it's a crash course, which is why I'm framing it that way. Nobody is getting past Burroughs to get to Dake here. I think, I'm excited to see Mitchell Messenbrink and see what he can do to at least maybe throw him off, but Burroughs is as great as they come. It's not a shock or a shame to admit that whatsoever here. But regardless of what you think of him and all the banter with, Starocci leading up to this, but Burroughs and Dake, that is going to be the headline matchup here, I think, across, in terms of all wrestling, in terms of spectating this wrestling event. Who wins in your mind, Jeff?
Well, two things. So one is, maybe I'm being the homer here, but I actually think Jason Nolf is going to take Burroughs out before he gets to Dake. I think Jason is really coming on here, and I think he is going to shock the world. Now, Dake is just so doggone tough to score on. I do think Dake ends up being the representative, but I really think, and part of it is, Burroughs is obviously at the tail end here of his career. And I think Nolf is now kind of right into the prime of his. And I think he's taken the lessons learned from the last few years now of going through this. And being in that room, I think, is helping Jason Nolf as it does all of those guys. But, and listen, I do think, Messenbrink and, Vincenzo Joseph, and I'm actually curious to see how Levi Haynes does, because I think his game, now he's, pretty green in terms of the international scene here with freestyle, but I think his game is going to translate well to the international stage. Now, I'm not expecting him to go out and, be in the top 3 or 4 here, but I am just curious to see kind of how he fares on the weekend. So, we'll see how that goes. I do think, as I said, I think Aaron Brooks is going to be in there against Taylor in the best of 3, and I think that'll be fun to watch. And I think Jaden Cox and Kyle Snyder could go either way as well. I obviously have a bias and pulling for Kyle, and I think he'll do it. But I think that one's going to be fun to watch. And I think the heavyweight with Zilmer and Gwizdowski and Paris, and again, I think Greg Kirkley could be right in that mix there, despite his lack of experience. I think that's going to be a fun weight to watch and see how it all pans out here this weekend as well.
Does Gilman repeat as the Olympic representative at 57? I can't help but think that Spencer Lee is finally going to break through now that he is rested, recovered, solely focusing on freestyle as a 4 seed. That is a dark horse candidate as they come for Spencer.
Yeah, I got to and Dayton Fix, I would not roll out of there either. I think any of those 4 guys, I will not be surprised. That one, I'm having a tough time making a prediction on, to be honest with you, Zach. I think any of those 4 are capable. Obviously, I love Gilman and want to see him win it, and I think he's certainly capable of. I just don't think there's much separating any of those top 4 at this weight.
Jeff, thanks so much for the time, taking time out of your busy schedule. Again, you can listen to his live play-by-play coverage over the course of sessions 1 and 2 on Friday on Fox 98.7 FM, and then for live studio updates all day Saturday. Jeff, thanks so much for the time. I appreciate it, and can't wait to catch up again after the event itself. So thank you.
Thanks, Zach.
And once again, thanks so much for checking out this episode of Locked On Nittany Lions. If you enjoy these conversations around your favorites Penn State sports teams, become an everydayer, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and wherever you get your podcast, leave a like on this episode, share it with friends and family, and let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Be a part of the discussion around Penn State sports. And don't forget, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering each and every league. You can find Locked On Sports Today now available on YouTube and on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app.